Okay, tubers. The first thing I'm going to show you is well, you're starting to see two things actually. But if you have a look under there, you can see the duct that I made up in a previous video. You can see the reducer from the larger diameter to the smaller diameter. Today I made a bracket up. You can see that bracket that's holding it in place, and put two screws in there. Underneath, to hold it or stabilise it, I've also put double-sided cushion tape, and that helped me to locate it and then drill the holes. Secondly, you can start to see the wiring that I've all unravelled. You can see that I've got a temporary courtesy light here, which came out of an ambassador. It's not the correct one. The correct one is to go up underneath here, and I'll use this one elsewhere in the car. If we move back, we can see that I've got the dash panel in temporarily. Everything is working on the dash panel now, except for the fuel gauge. So the fuel gauge is faulty. I've got all the temperature gauge, all of the lights working. You can see over there another courtesy light that's working. The wiring is very straightforward now. It's just a matter of getting wiring tape and backing it all up and making it all nice and neat now, and putting a radio delete in there. If I step back, you can see the dash pad. So if we have a look along here, you can see that it's a crackless dash pad. I've also managed to clean the plastics that were up underneath of the dash pad up along here. It's still got a bit of a warp in it, but I'm going to leave it that way. I've got out a lot of it by heating it up, but I'm just going to get a dash pad made up to fit into there to protect this nice dash pad. Up here you can see the deluxe courtesy light that I've put in. You can also see the headliner that's hanging down. I'm now going to have the whole headliner replaced inside the car. The restored dash is back in. The restored console is back in. The lid still has to get done, but that can wait. So all of the console area was restored, painted as much as possible. There's a tiny bit of pitting. I don't mind that. I'm not going to re-chrome it. I would rather a car get put back together with all of its age spots. I don't mind. I'm going to be replacing that steering wheel with the standard Hornet steering wheel, which I've gradually put together, and that's taken some time to do. Now, what else? You can see that the door rests are in. Some of the items. I'm going to put the dash frame in now for the glove box, and that will be in the next video. Something else that I've also done, if we step back at the car, is the rear tail lights. They're different. If you have a look, the rear tail lights I had another two frames come with the car, and they actually didn't have any bubbling on the back of the pot metal that they created these things out of. So I did a lot of cutting and polishing and that of the lights, and also the plastics as well. The plastics were in quite bad shape, but you can see that they've come up quite good. This one's a bit off centre, I'll have to fix that later. Now the bumpers are going to be replaced, and if you follow me, I'll show you what I found. This is my undercover area. Not only did I find this from the 1980s in storage, from when I was in the Hornet Car Club, and this is how glary things were back then. That's a trunk mat that was never used, that we had made up. But I got two brand new bumpers here, front and rear. They have not been chromed yet, and they're all ready to be chromed. Not a single mark on them. So that's all new old stock. Beautiful thing about that with tubers, didn't cost me a cent. They were found in my garage from the hoard of parts that I had from my previous Hornets. Now if we have a look at the front of the car, I've put the front back together again. I've removed the horns which were right in the middle of the dashboard here, and this wire here is for the horn once I hit the standard steering wheel on. But if you have a look down here, all the wiring that's been done, it's just needing now to get wrapped in loom tape. It won't have any sticky stuff on it. I found down here a lot of the wires down here that have been crimped. We see it's just a couple more that are crimped. The crimping, the acid from the tape dissolves in heat, and where this was in WA, it was a very, very hot climate. And what happens is that the material from the tape melts and it has an acid compound in it, and it travels down the wires into here, and it affects the copper wires. It puts a film on the surface of the wires, and what happens is the wires disconnect, or they don't have 100% connection, and that's done. The acid helps with that. So whenever you have crimp connectors on a car, please remove them, solder them, and then put heat shrink on top of that. So that's a far better way of doing it. All my wiring, right down to the smallest wire, is wire wrapped correctly and then soldered and heat shrunk. On some of the wires down here, like this, I cut out 2 meters of wire here, and nearly 2 meters of wire, and put a connector in. Okay, so I can disconnect that component. The other thing that I'm also tempted to do is with these wires is to start adding loom connectors, and that way I can disconnect everything that's left. But everything's working now. So if we put the lights on, we can see the lights are all working. And that's it. That's the engine bay. There's still a lot of work needing to be done there with the mechanical side of it. It may be a case that I put a new cam in it. There is a puffy spot in the idle, and it's coming from up the back here. Unless it's just an adjustment, we don't know yet. So that's one of the next tasks. Thank you very much.